The twin suns of Cathar Prime sank low behind the purple hills, painting the wide desert sky in red and gold. The wind carried the smell of dry dust and metal. Eli Turner leaned on the old wooden fence outside his ranch, watching his herd of long-legged grazers shuffle toward the water trough. The day was ending, and like most days, he was alone. Eli was not a man of many words. He had come from Earth 10 years ago, chasing quiet and distance from wars that had made the stars burn. Out here on the far edge of the galaxy, nobody asked about your past. You worked your land, kept to yourself, and hoped the alien authorities never found reason to visit. A soft metallic hum came from the small house behind him. His housekeeper, Sira, was finishing her chores. She was from the Yelnar species, tall, slender, with smooth green skin that shimmered faintly in the light. Two thin antennae curved from her head, twitching gently when she heard footsteps. Most people thought Yelnar were cold and emotionless, but Eli had learned to see the quiet kindness in her movements, the way she handled the tools, the gentle hum she made while cleaning, the careful order she kept in his simple home. As Eli stepped into the kitchen, he noticed something strange. Sira was standing near the sink holding a broken dish. Her leg joints trembled and green fluid, Yelnar blood, dripped onto the floor. She tried to hide it quickly with a towel. "Sira," Eli said quietly. "You're hurt." Her eyes widened, the slitted pupils narrowing. "It is nothing, Master Eli, just a small scratch." "Please, forget it." "That's not a scratch," he said, walking closer. "You're bleeding through your leg plating. You need a medic." "No." Her voice cracked and her antennae folded tight against her head. "No, doctor, please, promise me." Eli froze. He had never seen her afraid before. She always spoke calm and polite, like every word was measured. But now she looked like a creature cornered. He nodded slowly. "All right, no doctor. But you need to tell me what happened." She shook her head, avoiding his eyes. "I fell, that is all." He sighed, kneeling to clean the blood from the floor. The liquid left faint glowing streaks across the wooden boards. "You fell," he repeated softly. "Strange. There's no place to fall out here." Sira turned away, pretending to busy herself with dishes. Eli didn't press. He had learned long ago that pushing people only made them close up tighter. But something in his chest twisted. He had seen that kind of fear before, back on the mining colonies, in people who owed debts to the wrong kind of men. Later that evening, Eli stepped out onto the porch. The stars had come out, sharp bright dots in the dark sky. The ranch stretched endlessly around him, silent except for the hum of night insects. Yet tonight the silence felt wrong. He scanned the horizon. A faint glow flickered above the northern ridge, blue lights moving in a slow circle. Too regular to be meteors, too quiet to be ships from town. Eli frowned, his hand drifting to the old rifle resting by the door. Behind him the door creaked open. Sira stood there, wrapped in a light shawl, her face pale under the starlight. "You should not be outside tonight," she whispered. "Why not?" Her voice trembled. "They are looking for me." Eli turned. "Who's looking for you?" She shook her head quickly. "Please go inside. I will fix this. I will leave before sunrise." "That's not an answer," Eli said, his tone harder now. "You're bleeding, hiding something, and telling me to ignore lights over my own land." "That's not how this works." Her antennae drooped. For a moment she seemed to crumble, like the strength that held her up finally broke. "If I tell you, they will kill you too," she whispered. Eli stepped closer. "Let them try." For a long moment they stood in silence. The only sound was the wind brushing against the sand. Finally, Sira spoke in a trembling voice. "You are kind, human, too kind. But kindness is dangerous on this world. Please, if you see lights, if you hear drones, say nothing. Tell them I ran away. Tell them I was nothing to you." Eli stared at her. "And if I don't?" She looked up at him and her eyes glowed faintly blue. "Then they will burn your ranch to the ground." Something moved behind the hills, a low hum like engines turning in the distance. The lights in the sky shifted, breaking formation and heading straight toward the ranch. Eli's grip tightened around his rifle. "Too late," he muttered. Sira stepped back, panic flashing across her face. "Hide me," she begged. "Please, human, hide me." Eli glanced at the approaching lights, then back at her trembling form. He didn't know what trouble she had brought, but his instincts, the same ones that had kept him alive during a dozen border wars, told him this wasn't ordinary. "Get inside," he said quietly. "Down to the cellar." She hesitated, then ran, her injured leg dragging slightly. The door slammed shut behind her. Eli turned to face the horizon. The lights were closer now. 5 bright spheres drifting low over the desert, silent but menacing. Dust swirled under their glow. For a second he thought he saw shapes. Moving inside them, dark figures with silver armor. A deep rumbling filled the air as the first sphere descended toward his barn. Eli raised his rifle. Something told him his quiet life was over. The night air of Cathar Prime was heavy with dust and silence. Only the hum of the alien drones broke the stillness. 5 glowing spheres hovered above Eli Turner's ranch, sweeping the land with blue light that flickered against the sand. Eli crouched behind a fence post, watching. His heart beat slow and steady, old soldier's rhythm. He had seen this kind of search before. Careful, cold, and without mercy. Inside the cellar, Sierra hid beneath the floorboards, her wounded leg wrapped in a torn towel. She could hear the muffled buzz of engines and Eli's slow footsteps above. She whispered to herself in her alien tongue, a sound like soft chimes in the dark. Then, metallic thuds. The sheriff's patrol had landed. 3 tall figures stepped out of the glowing craft. They were Yelnar soldiers, armored and silent, their insect-like bodies gleaming under the drone lights. Their leader's crest shimmered silver, marking him as higher rank. He scanned the house with his antennae twitching. "Human residents detected," said one in a sharp metallic voice. "Infrared scan. 1 life form detected inside, 1 outside." Eli stood slowly, his rifle held low but ready. "Evening," he said, calm as the desert wind. "You boys look lost." The leader approached, towering over him. "We are searching for a fugitive," he said coldly. "A Yelnar worker from the mining colony escaped her assigned post. Her name is Siratena. She is dangerous." Eli tilted his hat back. "Dangerous?" "She washes dishes." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Harboring a fugitive is a criminal act. Have you seen her?" Eli paused. In that heartbeat, his mind raced through every consequence, arrest, execution, or worse. But he thought of Sierra's trembling voice, her green blood dripping on his floor, her fear. He lied. "Never heard of her." The alien stared for a moment longer, then turned to his soldiers. "Search the perimeter." They moved toward the barn. Eli's jaw tightened. He knew they would find something, the footprints, the blood. He needed to distract them. "Hey," he said suddenly, "you people ever think of knocking before snooping around someone's home?" The leader hissed. "Silence, human." But Eli kept talking. "Seems to me you're the ones breaking the law out here." The alien turned, antennae flaring in anger. "You will regret." Then the barn lights exploded. A shockwave of dust and sound tore through the yard. Eli hit the ground as sparks filled the air. His old defense system, Earth tech he had buried years ago, had triggered automatically. The aliens fell back, shouting in their strange language. Eli scrambled to his feet and ran for the cellar. He threw the door open. "We got company," he whispered. "Time to go." Sierra looked terrified. "You should not have lied for me," she said. "They will not stop now." "Too late," he replied. "You can explain while we're alive." She hesitated, then pulled something small and glowing from under her robe. A shard no bigger than Eli's hand, pulsing with soft blue light. Eli froze. "What in the blazes is that?" Sierra's voice was barely a whisper. "It's why they want me dead." The shard pulsed brighter, filling the cellar with light. A faint hum echoed in Eli's skull like someone whispering in his ear. "Help me, human," said a voice, not from Sierra but from inside his mind. Eli stumbled back. "What was that?" Sierra's hand shook. "It speaks to you because it knows what you are." "And what am I supposed to be?" "A species that doesn't bow," she said quietly. "A species that remembers freedom." Above them, the soldiers regrouped. Heavy footsteps crunched the sand. One shouted, "Thermal reading, 2 heat sources under the ground." "They found us," Eli said. "Back door now." Sierra limped behind him as they climbed a hidden hatch leading out through the tool shed. Outside, the drones moved closer, casting blue light over everything. The desert was bright as day now. Eli grabbed his old hoverbike, dusty and half-broken. "Can you ride?" She nodded weakly, clutching the glowing shard. He helped her onto the back seat, then kicked the bike to life. The engines coughed, sputtered, then roared. They sped into the night, the wind whipping across their faces. Behind them, the ranch glowed orange. The soldiers had set fire to it. Eli didn't look back. Sierra shouted over the wind, "You should have left me." "Not my style," Eli growled. The shard in her hands pulsed faster now, its glow reflecting in her wide alien eyes. "It's warning us," she said. "Of what?" She turned, pointing at the horizon. In the distance, 3 larger ships rose into the air, their searchlights spreading across the desert like giant claws. "The sheriff himself is coming," she said softly. Eli's jaw clenched. "Then we better ride faster." They crossed into the canyon lands where red stone walls rose on both sides like broken teeth. The wind howled through the gaps, hiding the hum of the pursuing ships. Eli slowed down and parked under a rocky overhang. Sierra slid off, breathing hard. Her leg was bleeding again, but she refused to stop. He glanced at the shard. "You said it's alive. What does that mean?" Sierra held it close. "It's not a weapon," she said. "It's a mind. A forbidden mind. Long ago, before the Yelnar ruled this sector, it belonged to humans. You called it an AI." Eli blinked. "An Earth AI? Those things were wiped out centuries ago." "Not all," she said. "This one survived. They call it the Shard of Eden. It remembers things, truths the sheriff would kill to erase." Eli's voice was low. "You stole it from him." "Yes," she whispered. "And now he hunts me." For a moment, they sat in silence. The stars above looked cold and sharp, and in that stillness, Eli realized something strange. The shard was pulsing, not randomly, but in rhythm with his heartbeat. The voice returned in his head, calm and soft. "You protected her. I will protect you." Eli looked at Sierra, then back at the dark sky. "What in hell have I gotten myself into?" From far away, the sheriff's voice echoed over the loudspeakers, cold and mechanical. "Human rancher Eli Turner, you are charged with treason and aiding a fugitive. Surrender now." Eli smiled bitterly, checking his rifle. "Guess that answers my question." The wind picked up, carrying sand across the canyon floor. The chase had only begun. The morning came harsh and red. The twin suns rose over the canyon walls, lighting the cracked desert in gold fire. Eli Turner sat against a boulder, his rifle resting across his knees. His hover bike lay half buried in sand, its engines burnt out from the night's escape. Sierra was asleep beside him, her injured leg bandaged with strips from his old shirt. The glowing shard lay between them, pulsing like a heartbeat. Every few seconds it whispered faint sounds inside Eli's head, soft, distant voices he couldn't understand. He hadn't slept. His mind replayed the night, the fire, the drones, the lies. His home was ash now, his quiet life gone forever. As the light climbed higher, Sierra stirred awake. Her eyes blinked open, shimmering pale blue. "You did not leave me," she said softly. Eli gave a tired smirk. "Wasn't planning to. You have lost everything because of me." "I've lost worse," he said, looking at the horizon. "And I'm still breathing." Sierra looked down at the shard. "We cannot rest here. The sheriff's signal reaches far. He will find us." Eli glanced toward the eastern sky. Dust clouds were already rising, patrol craft sweeping the area. He spat into the sand. "Then we move." They walked through the narrow canyon, shadows hiding their path. The air shimmered with heat. Far above, the sound of engines echoed like thunder. Eli stopped suddenly. On a nearby rock wall, strange markings burned into the stone, deep claw-like symbols arranged in a circle. He touched one. It was still warm. "What is it?" he asked. Sierra's face darkened. "It's a warning. Sheriff Rook's mark. He leaves it wherever he hunts," Eli frowned. "Marking his territory?" "No," she whispered. "Marking his prey." The ground trembled faintly. Sierra's antennae twitched. "He is close." By noon they reached the mouth of the canyon where an old fuel station stood half buried in dust. The faded sign above read Jax's Pit Stop. Humans welcome, sometimes. Inside, Eli found empty shelves and a few rusted parts. He searched for anything useful, fuel cells, power packs, maybe food. Sierra stayed by the door, watching the horizon. "I do not understand you humans," she said. "You choose danger when safety is near." Eli chuckled. "We've been choosing danger since we learned to walk upright." She tilted her head. "And yet you survive." "Most of the time." Then the sound came, a low, heavy hum that made the floor vibrate. A ship was landing nearby. Eli peeked through a cracked window. A large black vessel hovered above the sand. Its hull gleamed with silver markings, the same claws carved into the canyon walls. Sheriff Rook had arrived. The ramp dropped. Rook stepped out, towering over his guards. His armor shimmered dark violet and his eyes burned red beneath a steel crest. His voice rolled across the desert deep and cold. "Human," he said, "your lies have reached me. You hide what is mine." Eli gritted his teeth. "You talk too much for a lawman." Rook smiled, showing sharp metallic teeth. "You think you can defy me because you were a soldier once? You are nothing. I command fleets, planets, lives." Eli raised his rifle. "Then you're just another target." Rook's guards spread out, aiming plasma weapons. Sierra grabbed Eli's arm. "You cannot fight him," she whispered. "He carries the code." "The shard reacts to him." "What code?" Eli asked. "The sheriff was part of the project that created the AI shards. He has command access. If he touches it, he can enslave it again." The shard began to pulse violently, reacting to Rook's presence. A high-pitched hum filled the air. Eli winced as the sound stabbed through his skull. Rook raised his hand. "There, it hears me. It remembers who owns it." The shard's glow turned crimson for a moment, then back to blue. Eli's voice came out low. "Seems it made a new choice." Rook's smile faded. "Then you both die." He fired first. The plasma blast hit the window, shattering glass and wood. Eli rolled aside, returning fire with precise bursts. The old station exploded with smoke and dust. Sierra ducked behind a counter, clutching the shard. "Eli," she cried, "get to the back." He shouted. Bullets and plasma scorched the walls. Eli darted from cover to cover, hitting two guards square in their chests. Their bodies fell smoking into the sand. But Rook kept advancing, shrugging off each hit like sparks on armor. When Eli ran out of ammo, he drew his knife and faced the giant. Rook grabbed him by the throat, lifting him easily. "You humans never learn," he hissed. "Always thinking courage is strength." Eli's boots kicked against the air. His vision blurred, but then a blinding light erupted behind Rook. Sierra stood with the shard raised high. Its glow had turned brilliant white. Energy waves rippled across the ground. "Release him," she shouted. The light hit Rook square in the chest, throwing him backward through the wall. He crashed into the sand, smoke rising from his armor. Sierra fell to her knees, exhausted. The shard dimmed. Eli coughed, catching his breath. "You did that?" "I do not control it," she said weakly. "It reacts to danger." Rook stirred, his armor cracked and smoking. "This is not over," he growled, climbing to his feet. "You cannot run from me, human." He pressed a button on his wrist. A small drone flew out, scanning Eli's face. A red light flashed. "Now you are marked," Rook said. "Every bounty hunter in this sector will know your name." He retreated to his ship, his laughter echoing as the engines roared. The vessel rose into the sky and vanished into the haze. Eli watched it go, his jaw set. "So now I'm wanted," he muttered. "Guess I've had worse." Sierra looked at him, her expression mixed with fear and admiration. "He will not stop, Eli. He has marked you for death." Eli holstered his rifle. "Then I'll mark him back." The shard pulsed softly as if approving his words. Above them, the suns climbed higher, and the desert stretched endless and silent. The hunter had marked his prey. But this prey, this human, was ready to hunt back. The desert morning was calm, almost peaceful. A thin mist drifted through the canyons, softening the red light of Cathar's twin suns. For the first time since his ranch burned, Eli Turner almost felt still. But peace on this planet never lasted long. From where they hid in the cracked fuel station, Sierra could sense movement. Small vibrations through the sand, too steady to be natural. Her antennae quivered. "They are coming," she whispered. Eli was already loading his rifle. "Took them long enough," he muttered. Sierra limped to the doorway, peering out into the heat shimmer. Dozens of dark shapes moved across the horizon, alien soldiers armored and armed, spreading out in formation. Overhead, 3 dropships descended in unison, kicking up clouds of dust. "They're not just after you anymore," Eli said. "They're coming for both of us." She looked at him, guilt flashing across her face. "You could still run, Eli. The desert is wide." He shook his head. "If I run, I'll die tired." Then he smiled faintly, a stubborn spark in his gray eyes. "Besides, I got a few tricks left from the old days." Eli's old days meant war. The fuel station had become his fortress. He set up traps using spare power cells and EMP charges scavenged from wreckage. He reprogrammed an old cleaning droid into a decoy mine. Every sound of his tools echoed sharp in the silence. Sierra watched, fascinated. "Humans build fast," she said softly. "We build faster when someone's trying to kill us," he replied. She touched the glowing shard hanging from her neck. The sheriff will not stop. If we fight, we must make it count. Eli glanced at her. Then we hit hard and disappear before the smoke clears. The shard pulsed faintly as if agreeing. By midday, the first wave of soldiers reached the canyon. They moved silently, their armor glinting like beetle shells. Drones buzzed above them, scanning the ruins. Eli and Sierra crouched behind a low wall. Eli's finger rested on a small remote detonator. He waited until the first soldier stepped into range. "Welcome to the neighborhood," he whispered. He pressed the switch, a blast of blue-white. Energy tore through the air. The shockwave rolled across the sand, frying drones and knocking armored figures off their feet. Smoke rose in spirals. Eli popped up and fired, hitting two before they could recover. The rifle kicked hard against his shoulder, the sound echoing across the canyon. Sierra, though injured, lifted her hand toward the shard. It glowed fiercely, sending out invisible waves that bent the light around them. The air shimmered, and suddenly they were hidden, camouflaged in plain sight. "Neat trick," Eli whispered. "It drains the shard," she said. "We have little time." The survivors regrouped quickly. Alien voices shouted commands. Plasma bolts rained down, striking the walls and blasting stone apart. Eli ducked behind cover. "They're pushing from the east side," he said. "We'll get boxed in." Sierra's eyes glowed. "There's another way." She reached out and touched the ground. The shard pulsed and the earth beneath them cracked open, revealing a narrow tunnel lined with glowing minerals. Eli stared. "That's convenient." "The old rebel tunnels," Sierra said. "Built long ago when humans and Yelnar were allies. Guess it's time for a reunion," he said, grabbing his gear. They dropped into the tunnel just as another barrage hit the fuel station, blowing it apart. Heat washed down through the opening as they crawled deeper into the cool dark. The tunnel stretched for miles beneath the desert. The walls shimmered with faint light and old machinery hummed weakly, still alive after centuries. As they walked, Sierra spoke softly. "The shard remembers these tunnels. It says humans once built them, to hide something powerful." Eli frowned. "Something more powerful than that thing you're carrying?" "Not more," she said. "Connected." Before he could ask more, the shard pulsed sharply and a distant voice echoed through the tunnel. "Eli Turner," it said, calm, mechanical, and familiar. "Your resistance is noted. You have become an anomaly." Eli froze. "That's not Rook," he said. "No," Sierra whispered. "That is the shard's other half." The tunnel lights flickered. From the far end, a glowing figure began to form, humanoid made of pure light and code. It spoke again. "I am the original core. You carry my fragment. The sheriff seeks to reunite us for control." Sierra stepped back, clutching the shard protectively. "You cannot have it." "I do not wish control," the light said. "I seek freedom. But Rook follows my signal even now." Eli cursed under his breath. "Then we better move before he shows up in person." The figure pointed to a metal door carved with human writing so old it was barely readable. "Exit, Surface Access Station No. 9. Go," it said. "I will mask your trail for a short time." Eli nodded. "Appreciate the favor, whoever you are." "Remember, human," the voice replied, fading into static. "Freedom has a price." They emerged from the tunnel hours later into an abandoned canyon base. Rusted human vehicles and faded flags lay half buried in sand. The wind whistled through broken walls. Eli scanned the horizon. "No ships in sight for now." "Looks like we're safe," he said. But Sierra didn't answer. She stared at the shard, which now glowed with a strange pattern, symbols spinning rapidly across its surface. "What's wrong?" he asked. "It's changing," she whispered. "It says someone just broke through its outer code." Eli stiffened. "You mean Rook?" She nodded slowly. "He knows where we are." Eli sighed and sat down on a broken crate. "Then we hit him first." Sierra blinked. "You want to fight the sheriff?" He smirked. "No, I want to beat him." The shard pulsed brighter, casting blue light over their faces. Far above the desert, unseen in the dark sky, a fleet of ships turned toward their location. The hunter's mark was burning, and the war was coming. The night above Cathar Prime was black as obsidian, stars scattered like cold fire across the endless sky. Deep below that sky, in the buried ruins of the old human outpost, Eli Turner opened his eyes. His vision blurred, his body heavy, and his head throbbed like a war drum. For a long moment he didn't remember where he was. Only the smell of burnt air and the low hum of machinery surrounded him. Then he saw Syrah, kneeling beside him, her face dimly lit by the blue glow of the shard. "You're awake," she said softly. Eli groaned, sitting up. "How long was I out?" "Half a cycle," she said. "You were burned by the shard's energy when it tried to shield us." He looked down. A faint blue mark glowed across his chest, a thin line that pulsed with the same rhythm as the shard. "Well," he muttered, "I guess I'm branded now." Syrah shook her head. "Not branded, chosen," Eli frowned. "Don't start talking like the shard now." But even as he joked, he felt it, the whisper, the shard's voice soft and echoing in his mind. "We are linked now, Eli Turner. Your survival sustains me." He rubbed his temples. "Yeah, great. Voices in my head. Always wanted that," Syrah smiled faintly. "It chose you because you defied Rook. The shard recognizes courage." "Courage," he said dryly, "or stupidity." They moved carefully through the base, searching for supplies. Most of the facility was half collapsed, walls carved with old Earth symbols. Faded posters still clung to the metal. "Frontier hope, humanity expands the stars." Eli paused at one, brushing away dust. "My father used to tell me stories about this program," he said. "Humans came out here thinking they'd build paradise." Syrah tilted her head. "And what happened?" "We met Paradise's landlord," he said grimly. "And they had bigger guns." At the end of a long hallway, they found an open chamber filled with glowing screens and broken robots. The shard in Syrah's hand began to vibrate. "This place remembers," she whispered. "It is where the Shard of Eden was born." Eli stepped closer to a central console. A faint blue hologram flickered to life, a woman's face, calm and human. Her eyes glowed faintly, artificial yet kind. "Welcome back, Project Eden," the voice said. "Core system detected. Fragment reconnected." Syrah looked at Eli in awe. "It's the shard's memory." The hologram turned toward Eli. "Human presence detected. Genetic signature matches historical registry. Turner Elias. Rank Corporal, Earth Expeditionary Forces. You are a descendant of the original Protectors." Eli blinked. "Protectors? Lady, I'm just a rancher." "Not anymore," the hologram replied. "The sheriff seeks to enslave sentient code once more. He cannot be allowed to succeed. The shard chose you to restore balance." Before he could answer, the base lights flickered violently. The ground shook. Syrah's antennae twitched. "He's here!" A deafening roar echoed through the tunnels. Metal groaned. Dust rained from the ceiling. Eli grabbed his rifle. "How did he find us so fast?" "The shard's connection," Syrah said. He traced it. The hologram's tone changed, urgent. "Defensive mode activating. Power rerouting to outer gates." Eli ran to the doorway. Red warning lights flashed. Through the haze, he saw dark figures entering the base. Rook soldiers, armored and silent, moving like shadows. "Syrah, stay behind me," he said. "No," she said, gripping the shard. "We fight together." The first wave came fast. Plasma bolts ripped through the hallway. Eli fired back, every shot echoing through the metal tunnels. The shard pulsed brighter and Syrah raised her hand. Light barriers forming midair, stopping the plasma fire. "Nice trick," Eli said, ducking behind cover. "It's the shard," she shouted. "It reacts to danger again." "Good. Let's make it work for us." They fought side by side, man and alien, flesh and machine, holding off the storm. When Eli's rifle ran dry, he swung it like a club, smashing into a soldier's mask. The shard's glow spread over him, giving his strikes unnatural strength. The air was thick with smoke and energy. Sparks flew as old machines came to life again, guided by the shard's pulse. The base itself seemed to fight with them, doors slamming shut, walls shifting to block enemy paths. But then a massive figure stepped through the smoke. Sheriff Rook. His armor was cracked from their last encounter, but his eyes burned brighter than ever. "Enough hiding," he snarled. "You think you can stop the law?" Eli raised his weapon. "I don't see any law around here. Just a bully with a badge." Rook's laughter was deep and cruel. "The galaxy belongs to those who can control it. You humans had your chance and you wasted it." He raised his arm. Energy built around his gauntlet. Before Eli could move, a beam of crimson light hit him square in the chest. Syrah screamed. The shard in her hands flared and she lunged forward. The beam split, curving around her as she pressed the shard against Eli's chest. A shockwave burst through the chamber. When the light faded, Eli was on his knees. He felt different. His body hummed like a living circuit. He looked at his hands. Tiny blue streams of light ran beneath his skin. Syrah's voice trembled. It bonded with you completely. The shard's voice filled the room, stronger now. Human and code united. Phase 2 initiated. Rook staggered backward, shocked. Impossible. Eli stood, the blue glow burning in his eyes. Guess you underestimated humans again. Rook aimed his weapon, but Eli raised his hand. The air around him shimmered, and Rook's blaster tore itself apart mid-air. You wanted the shard? Eli said. Now you'll deal with both of us. For the first time, Rook looked uncertain. You can't control that power. Maybe not, Eli said, stepping forward, but I can aim it. The air crackled. The base shook. The final battle was coming, and this time the human wasn't running. The sun rose over Cathar Prime like a blood-red wound in the sky. Smoke curled up from the distant canyons where Sheriff Rook's forces marched. A river of metal and fire spreading toward the ruins. Above, his fleet darkened the horizon, black ships gleaming like blades. Eli Turner stood on a cliff overlooking it all. The wind whipped his coat, dust streaking across his face. His chest still glowed faintly where the shard had bonded with him, a blue pulse that throbbed like a second heartbeat. Behind him, Syrah limped forward, holding the shard now dim and quiet. He is bringing everything, she said softly. Every ship, every soldier. He means to end this today. Eli nodded, eyes hard. Then we end him first. Syrah's antennae twitched nervously. You carry power you do not understand, Eli. The shard's energy, it changes you. Too long and it will burn your mind. He gave a thin smile. Guess I'll burn bright then. The underground base buzzed with life. Rebels, both human settlers and alien defectors, had gathered after hearing of the sheriff's crimes. Some wore scavenged armor, others simple dust gear, but all carried weapons. They looked to Eli now, whispering his name as though he were something more than a man. A grizzled old miner stepped forward. You the one who made Rook bleed? Eli nodded. The miner grinned. Then you've got our guns. Eli raised his voice. Listen up. Rook's coming with a whole army. We're outnumbered 10-1, but he doesn't understand something about humans, about us. We don't quit. We don't bow. A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. Even the aliens nodded slowly. Syrah stepped beside him. And we are not alone, she said. The shard will open the old defense grids. If we hold long enough, the planet will hear our call. Eli looked at her, then at the others. Then let's make sure they hear it loud. When the battle began, it started with light. Rook's ships rained plasma down on the canyon. Explosions shook the ground. Dust turned the air into red fog. The rebels scattered for cover, firing back with scavenged cannons and turrets. Eli sprinted through the chaos, his rifle firing bright blue streaks of energy. The shard's power flowed through him, enhancing his speed and aim. Bullets curved just off his skin, deflected by a faint shimmering field. Syrah stood on a rock outcropping, hands raised. The shard glowed again, sending arcs of light across the battlefield. Old defense towers long buried beneath the sand roared to life, firing upward at the descending ships. Direct hit, someone shouted. One of Rook's ships spun out of control, crashing into the dunes with a thunderous boom. But for every ship that fell, 2 more appeared. Eli ducked behind cover as a blast tore through the canyon wall. Rocks exploded around him. They're pushing us back, he yelled. Syrah's face was pale, sweat glistening on her skin. I can't hold the shard much longer, it's overheating. Then give it to me. Eli shouted. She hesitated. It might kill you. He met her gaze, steady and unafraid. I've died before, just didn't stick. She pressed the shard to his chest. Instantly, light burst from his body. His eyes glowed white-blue, his voice deepened as if another spoke through him. The shard's voice echoed across the field. Protocol Human Eden. Phase 3 activated. Every machine in the area froze for 1 heartbeat. Then, one by one, they turned their guns, not on the rebels but on Rook's army. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Drones fired at their masters. Mechs spun wildly, crushing soldiers underfoot. The rebels charged forward, shouting in disbelief and fury. Eli moved through the storm like a force of nature, energy crackling at his fingertips. He lifted his hand and a fallen ship rose from the sand, hovering, before crashing into another with a violent explosion. Syrah could only watch, tears in her eyes. He's not human anymore, she whispered. High above, Rook's command ship descended, its engines glowing red. The sheriff himself stood at the open ramp, watching his army collapse. His voice thundered through a massive speaker. "Enough!" The sound silenced the battlefield. Even the shard's hum faltered. Rook stepped down, encased in an enormous exosuit, dark armor glowing with red veins of power. "You think the shard makes you strong, human?" He roared. "You are just a tool, a spark in my storm." Eli's voice came calm and cold. "Maybe. But sometimes one spark is all it takes." The two collided in a shockwave of light and sound. The ground split beneath them. Plasma clashed against raw energy. Rook's gauntlet struck Eli, sending him skidding across the sand. "You cannot control it," Rook bellowed. "It will destroy you." Eli spat blood, smiling through the pain. "Worth it if it takes you with me." He lunged forward. Blue and red light collided again, filling the sky. Sierra fell to her knees, clutching the shard's pendant. "Please, Eli, come back." The shard flickered between their energies, torn between them. Then it pulsed once, bright and violent. A massive explosion of white light engulfed everything. When the dust settled, the canyon was silent. Rook's armor lay shattered, smoke rising from the wreckage. He tried to crawl, but his strength was gone. Eli stood over him, the shard flickering weakly on his chest. His face was pale, eyes dimming. Rook's voice rasped. You are no god." Eli knelt beside him. Didn't need to be. Just human. He pulled the badge from Rook's chest and dropped it to the sand. The sheriff's body stilled, lifeless. Eli staggered back, falling to one knee. The shard's glow faded, its light transferring to Sierra's hands. She reached for him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Eli, don't." He smiled faintly. "Told you we'd end him." Then his eyes closed and he fell still. The shard in Sierra's hands pulsed softly, whispering through the wind. Connection. Preserved. She looked up at the rising dawn. The war was over, but the cost was written in blood and light. The battle for Cathar Prime was over. The smoke had cleared, and the twin suns rose quietly over a broken land. Wrecked ships lay half-buried in the sand like the bones of ancient beasts. The once red desert shimmered with glass where plasma fire had melted the ground. Sierra stood alone at the edge of the canyon, her eyes reflecting the faint blue light still burning in her palms. The shard, Eden's heart, had gone silent. It no longer spoke, no longer hummed with life. All that remained within it were memories, and his voice. She knelt beside the still body of Eli Turner. The desert wind tugged gently at his coat, carrying the smell of burnt ozone and iron. His face looked peaceful, as if he were only resting after another long day's work on his ranch. "You stubborn human," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You couldn't just run, could you?" The wind didn't answer. Only the shifting of sand filled the silence. She placed the shard over his chest. Its light flickered once, weak and fading. "If there's anything left of you in there," she said, "please, wake up." But the shard stayed cold. Sierra bowed her head, tears sliding down her green cheeks, leaving dark lines in the dust. "You saved a world that was never yours," she said. "And you did it without asking for anything." She wrapped him in his old coat and placed his rifle across his chest, the weapon that had guarded her, that had defied an empire. Around his neck, she placed her own necklace, a simple string of woven fibers. "For luck," she whispered, "even if you no longer need it." By evening, the survivors gathered in the canyon. Humans and aliens stood together for the first time without fear. The rebels, miners, and even a few of Rook's former soldiers stared at the still form of the man who had stopped a tyrant. A grizzled miner spoke softly. "That human did what no fleet could," another whispered. "He made the machines turn against their master." And from somewhere in the crowd, a young alien said, "He fought not because of race or power, but because it was right." Sierra lifted her gaze. "He was Eli Turner," she said aloud. "A rancher, a soldier, a protector of freedom." Then she looked toward the distant horizon where a faint blue shimmer still hung in the air, the last trace of the shard's energy. "He showed us that courage doesn't need wings or crowns," she said. "It only needs a heart." The crowd bowed their heads. Night fell over the desert and stars filled the endless sky. Sierra sat beside the campfire, her eyes on the shard. It had dimmed completely now, a lifeless crystal. Still, she couldn't bring herself to throw it away. As the flames crackled, she heard faint whispers, soft, broken echoes within her mind. "Sierra." Her heart stopped. She clutched the shard tightly. "Eli, The voice came faint and far away like a dream carried by wind. Guess I didn't burn out after all, she gasped, half laughing, half crying. Where are you? What happened? Not sure, the voice said. Feels like I'm between places. The shard. It kept me alive somehow. Guess I'm part of it now. Tears welled in her eyes. You shouldn't have done that. Someone had to, he said softly. You were right, freedom's worth any price, she smiled sadly. Then what now? The shard pulsed faintly, the first light it had shone in hours. Now you live, Sierra, tell them what we did. Tell them humans don't quit. And just like that, the voice faded, leaving only silence and the faint warmth of light against her skin. Months later, Cathar Prime was reborn. The rebellion had become a government of equals, humans and aliens rebuilding side by side. The Galactic Council, once distant and corrupt, had been forced to recognize the world as free. On the edge of a wide plain, a small ranch stood rebuilt, Eli Turner's ranch. Its fences stretched across golden fields where alien animals grazed lazily. And on the porch, a wooden sign read, Turner's Rest in memory of a human who wouldn't bow. Sierra often came there at sunset. She would sit on the steps watching the horizon, feeling the soft hum of the shard that she now wore as a pendant. It no longer glowed, yet sometimes, just sometimes, she thought she heard a faint chuckle in her mind. You left the gate open again, the voice would tease, and she would smile, answering the empty air. I know. I was waiting for you. Years passed. The story of the quiet rancher spread across systems. To some he became legend, to others a myth, but to those who had fought beside him, Eli Turner was more than that. He was proof that even in a galaxy ruled by power, the smallest light could still defy the dark. One evening, as the suns dipped low and the sky turned violet, Sierra placed a small metal plaque in the sand near the porch. It bore words she had written herself. He came from a dying world and gave life to ours. He taught us that courage is not born from strength but from kindness. Rest well, Eli Turner. The stars remember. The wind rose, lifting the dust, carrying it toward the setting suns. Sierra closed her eyes and listened. For a heartbeat, just one, she heard that familiar voice again. You kept your word, Sierra. When she opened her eyes, a faint shimmer drifted across the sky, like the reflection of blue light on water. She smiled through her tears. And you kept yours, Eli. The stars above glowed brighter, and for a moment it felt as if the whole galaxy bowed its head in silence. The war was long over. The hero was gone, but his story, the story of a quiet human rancher who defied the stars, had only just begun.